is the Two Marketeers podcast, where hosts and marketing experts Sean Patrick and Lindsay seek to uncover what makes brands so powerful in how they impact modern society and culture.
Two Marketeers. They've got a podcast. The Two Marketeers podcast.
Hey.
Hey! Hey, girl, hey!
Hey.
How are you, Sean?
I'm good, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good morning, Marketeers.
Good morning, everyone.
Well, should we just hop right into it?
Yeah.
Okay, Sean, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about this thing called the multiplier effect.
Yes. Dun, dun, dun. What's the multiplier effect, Sean?
So this report was done by our friends at WARC, who I love, who are all about things like creative effectiveness and really trying to change what I would say specifically the advertising game to kind of like, you know, the biggest struggle I know we have is we know how valuable brands are. It's just really hard to measure.
Yeah.
And there's this obsession of only taking the things we can measure and measure quickly and prove what we want to prove is kind of what the last few years in advertising has been. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. I think there's been a huge uptick around conversation and execution of like performance marketing, which leaves a lot of people wondering about brand. And I think with the big swing towards short-term type budgets, economy, performance, this multiplier effect conversation is something that needs to happen now.
So I got this report, or I got a notification of this new report, first of its kind from WARC, who are definitely leaders in the space. I admire them. I admire the effort they put into where change could happen and the analytics that could drive those change. So it's called the Multiplier Effect, and that's the name of the report. And it's about these two sort of silos that exist, which are brand and performance.
Mm-hmm. Brand marketing and performance marketing.
And the basics are that when it comes to measurement, you're measuring performance of your media, of your message, and all of those sort of things. But really, and there's a lot of effort towards figuring out how to quantify what I would say the more qualitative aspects of execution of any brand, because a lot of things like sentiment and impact and intent and all those things, they're really subjective, to be quite honest. So it's really around how do you look at what we define as success in the world of business, and how do we attribute that success to things that we can repeat.
Measure and repeat.
What are we doing well? Right. What works? What doesn't work? Take out what's not working and do more of what works, and just keep doing that. Yeah. And I mean, it's a great scientific approach. Unfortunately, it has its downside. In the research they have done, right, quantitative, extensive data analysis is what's happening in the world of performance is, first of all, the data is skewing. It's not necessarily accurate. Mm-hmm. And those metrics and those results are driving more spend without providing the truth or that objective view of, is this succeeding or is it not?
Yeah.
That industry and that part of the industry is defining what success is, when the businesses aren't understanding that that should be defined by them.
The situation for me is that performance marketing is more easily measured and more easily can define success in the short term. So conversions to a website or drive people in store as an example. And so through like lower funnel performance marketing, you're able to more clearly prove that that asset that you put on a digital property, as an example, or that piece of creative that someone is seeing is leading to a click that goes to a website and hence getting more people to your website. So you can more easily track and prove the journey of those people through these kind of lower funnel performance marketing initiatives. I think the issue with that is that there's a disbelief in the effectiveness of brand marketing because more emotional awareness, upper funnel brand marketing initiatives are not as easily tracked and measured in the short term. And those initiatives require kind of a longer term view of the impact on the brand. So it's it's easier for people to say like brand initiatives may not be working as well as performance marketing initiatives, because you don't see the impact of a brand initiative in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks. It can be 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 5 years.
Yeah.
And to go back to your earlier point, I think a lot of the problem is around the measurement and the modeling of how you measure those things. And there is a lot of disbelief in, is that measurement true? Is that measurement right? And so the balance is off between the ability to prove performance marketing versus the ability to prove more higher level brand initiatives and the impact it has on business.
Well said.
Which is what this entire report is trying to do, right? It's trying to say we can actually prove the impact of brand marketing on business. And here's what the impact of it is, and trying to help marketers to see the long-term benefit of doing brand building initiatives. But I think also there's a couple of tricky things with that, in that, do brand marketers believe that that is the real impact they can have on their brand by doing brand initiatives? And how long do they have to wait until they see the impact of some of these higher level brand building initiatives?
So what you talk about, that sort of disbelief, is something that has existed. The report, which I highly suggest everyone reads, because Lindsay being closer to the media side, and I just mean that being more working with agencies and big brands, she has that sort of on the street sort of view of where change isn't going to happen, right? Like you see the resistance. So I don't remember brand ever being something that was accepted as a valid form of measurement by what I would say a more traditional marketer. Mm-hmm. And I get it, right? Got to see it to believe it. And the problem is, our only argument is actually you have to believe it to see it, right? There's that level of faith.
Yeah, you have to believe it to do it, and you're not going to see it if you don't do it. And if you don't measure it, then you for sure aren't going to see it.
So all to say, I honestly thought when I saw this, I get excited about stuff. Ask Lindsay.
They're like, amazing, we can finally do brand stuff without anyone saying no.
What's wrong with that? Is that so wrong? And then Lindsay kind of goes, yeah, well, welcome to the real world. But let's not let this moment pass without sharing some of that information.
Yeah.
There's one thing that the messy middle I thought was really interesting. So they talk about this messy middle, and I think that was really like, wow, that's so true. And this messy middle they talk about is it along this funnel of, you can no longer assume what actions drive anything from awareness to purchase.
Yeah, what specific thing it is that pushes them further down.
Exactly. And someone could go from awareness right to purchase on their phone through social. And this is, I think, where that's the opportunity where a shift can happen, to say, we can't know, but what can we know? We don't know their track their behaviors to a point of making it a scientific absolute that they're going to do these 5 things on their path to purchase. So I think there's an opportunity to say, okay, it is a messy middle. Like, don't try and track it in that regard, but to say, well, is it that important for us to control such a linear aspect of the funnel and kind of say, how do at awareness do you start, or any of those steps, do you insert a little bit of the trust factor of do this because we're a brand you should trust? And we're showing you, not because they're saying that, but show me why I should trust you without me even understanding it. And I think that's a really big, this messy middle was fascinating to me because I think that's where the opportunity to start measuring in different ways, because there's a lot we don't know, and thinking we do isn't helping.
Well, I think we don't know exactly what piece is pushing someone closer to purchase in the messy middle, but I think what we do know is that when someone feels good about the brand and they see an ad to purchase something, they are more likely to purchase. So like good feelings.
Yeah. Emotion.
Good feelings enhance performance marketing. It makes people more open and more interested in that brand when they see something that's lower funnel. So we do know that those feelings work together. And now with bringing in the multiplier effect, we have data from other brands that say, here's the impact of that good feeling. So here's theoretically from 15,000 brands or whatever it is they studied in the multiplier effect from WARC, here's the potential upside of having that good feeling marketing work in front of people before they see something that asks them to purchase. So I think that is good news, at least to say, if you do these brand marketing initiatives, here's the potential upside to that. There is a large potential upside to that. So you should be doing it and then make sure you measure it for yourself to realize the actual impact for you.
When change needs to happen, first of all, I don't know that that change is imminent enough. It's not enough of a problem for people to feel that they have to change the way they do things. The pressure isn't high enough. The tension isn't such that that change needs to happen. I hope this opportunity, this moment of our awareness of this brand multiplier thinking is to look for one thing that could change and measure it. Steps.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue that the stakes are very high for a lot of brands now. I think people are really realizing the detriment of a marketing plan that's too focused on performance. I mean, like Nike was a great example in the WARC study where they overinvested in performance to the detriment of their brand and are now heavily swinging the other way. They talked about McDonald's, a lot of big brands. I think that even small brands are in this climate where people are so price sensitive and they want good deals and the economy. I think a lot of brands are becoming like they're sacrificing the brand by putting out all of this lower funnel, lower promotion type of things without having any brand love building work associated with it. And like we've been in these kind of tough economic times for years now. And I think people are really seeing like, why is my brand not being chosen? And it's because you've done all of these things to erode your brand equity. And now it's, what do we have to do to repair that? So I think it is a scary time and a highly relevant conversation for a lot of brands who have been over investing in performance marketing, perhaps just don't know what's going on now and why their brand isn't performing. And this could be a key to help them unlock building some of their brand back up.
I'm hopeful. Meanwhile, there's a big industry that is struggling to figure out, or I maybe not even facing the fact that this is going to be a problem.
It's a really interesting time. It's a really interesting time because I think a lot of brands have been forced into this needing to prove value in sales, which is the cause of this entire swing. And it's time to use things like this study to reinvigorate the conversation around measurement and brand and what it can do. And it's awesome that we now have this as a tool to have that conversation.
I think the the part I like the most is it reinforces, I think it was one of our topics this year, and it's in this creativity crisis, there's an opportunity to prove that you can do more with less. And that's the small and scrappy me, because I'm in a current situation where there's a client who doesn't want to spend the money and they don't know what to do with it, and they're ready to spend it the way they spent it in the past. And I think there's an opportunity to say, well, maybe you could change how they think and show them that there's value in being resourceful. Mm-hmm. And this is an opportunity, instead of being like, oh, brand, it's such a huge investment with no return, is to say, take the same dollars and let's test this theory, right? Like do one thing different and insert, their whole point is put some brand, a little bit of brand messaging in that in that advertising, right? What could it hurt? So, shrink the change is how much damage could it do to incorporate a little bit of that brand in every message that you make without getting in the way of what the performance is supposed to do.
Yeah.
Low funnel.
Yeah, I think people are nervous. They're nervous because they're like, every dollar that I take out is a risk to not having that dollar perform in the short-term view, which is what I'm used to doing. So it's gonna take some brave clients, and like we talked about earlier, alignment from the top to say, I'm not under fire from the C-suite that I can't prove this. Like, we're holding hands on doing it all together. And if we believe in the long-term impact, we will see it.
Do you think this kind of report will be well received or very impactful on that other side, the brand, the side that you say are the ones accountable for making this change, which I don't disagree with, but I want to hold their hand?
I think it's some proof for, like, it's some like ammo for them to say, like, look, they say across these brands and these businesses that this is the impact. There's got to be a bigger conversation, because I think they're scared to do it. So it's going to take some bold brands continuing to do it, and more studies like this, and more conversations like this, and more proof in the pudding for people to be like, okay, let's do it.
Once again, Lindsay, bursting my bubble. Well, it's been a great one.
I'm sorry. I mean, like, I've been advocating for this for the last, 6 years, like, having this very conversation, which is why I know what people are going to be up against. And if you know what you're up against, you can start to get ahead of it. So, like, make sure you're having those conversations, bring measurement forward first before someone says, well, how do you measurement? Like, start that conversation.
Yes. Start shifting that part, not trying to prove that great creative does it, is to say, how are you measuring success? And are you ready to find better ways to start doing that? And maybe that's about affecting how they feel versus what they're going to do next.
Yeah, because if you can't prove it, then what's the point? We need to be able to prove that it works. And I think this WARC study has, like, super compelling information that it does work.
Now it needs the proof. That's what I feel, is now there's an opportunity for some of us to start trying to prove it. They've done the hard work. Now we have the information we need to continue to move it forward.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm going to go plant a tree. You go kick a kitten, and we will see you next time.
Oh, no. I feel like, I'm the realist in this conversation. Anyways, good luck. If anyone needs some tips on how to start to sell this in, call me. I'm ready. I'm ready for this conversation. So let's go.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thanks, Sean. Have a good day.
You too. Bye, Marketeers.
Bye, Marketeers.
Thanks for listening to the Two Marketeers podcast. New episodes launch every 2 weeks.
Find the Two Marketeers podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you like to listen. And be sure to rate and subscribe.
Listen on our website, thetwomarketeers.ca, or you can ask Alexa to play the Two Marketeers podcast.
Want to keep in touch? Follow the Two Marketeers on LinkedIn or at Two Marketeers on TikTok. We've always got something to share.
This podcast is over.